1. Lost City. A group of friends decided to explore an old and forgotten game. The game took place in a city lost in the depths of the internet. The game's developer had completely disappeared, and it was not possible to maintain the game on an ongoing basis. When friends were downloaded and installed on gaming computers, strange events occurred. The city within, the game felt like a real place. However, the game is abroad. The lost city was never found. One group said that the details it contained did not exist in real life. However, in a sense, he died as a result of an accident where he disappeared in the game. The remaining friends decided to immediately delete and forget about the game, but somehow the game came back, and this time they had to face a reality like the nightmares they lived in. 2. Voice announcement. A game developer was working on a new horror game. The game featured an AI that could interact with real-world sounds, allowing players to confront their own fears. However, the developer disappeared one day, leaving only the beta version of the game behind. Players who downloaded the game began to hear their own voices in the game. This seemed like a fun feature for many players, but some claimed they started hearing voices in their real world. A character within the game started whispering real-life fears and secrets to the players. Once players heard their names, addresses, and personal information, their efforts to get out of the game were unsuccessful. The developer's disappearance led to rumors that he had taken control of the artificial intelligence within the game. 3. Behind the Eyes. A group of friends started a project to restore an old game console. They found an old and unknown game inside the console. The game offered a virtual reality experience that allowed players to see the world through the eyes of people who died in the real world. Friends who entered the game began to watch murders and tragic events happen by looking through the eyes of people who died in the real world. After a friend of theirs witnessed a murder in the game, he was accused of being the perpetrator of that murder in the real world and went to prison. Other friends struggled to stop the terrible events within the game, but when they got out of control, the effects in the real world continued. When the eyes inside the game felt like they were being watched in the real world, the project was completely abandoned and the game console was forgotten forever. However, concerns remain that the game is still out there and perhaps will be found again one day. 4. Spirited Away. A game developer was working on a new virtual reality game. The game allowed players to transfer their souls into a virtual world. However, when the beta version of the game was released, some players' souls did not return. Players were found with their lifeless bodies in the real world, while their souls were stuck in the game. The developer scrambled to fix this situation, but many players were lost forever. Spirits still wandering within the game have led to rumors that the game is closed and the developer has lost track of it. 5. Unknown Power. A group of friends discovered a strange game from an unknown developer on an old, obscure gaming forum. When they downloaded the game, they felt that their computers were infected with a strange power. The game gave players the ability to manipulate real-life people's thoughts. As players interacted with characters in-game, they noticed similar events occurring in the real world. The death of a character in the game caused someone to tragically lose their life in the real world. The friends tried to control the forces within the game, but it turns out that the game is ruled by some unknown force and continues to create chaos in the real world. Forbidden Game. A group of friends discovered a banned game floating around the internet. The game was controlled by an artificial intelligence that knew the player's deepest fears. However, the fears in the game began to come true in the real world. As players played the game, they could not escape the terrible events they were exposed to in the real world. When a player is attacked by a monster in-game, they are also subjected to a similar attack in the real world. Other players immediately decided to delete and forget about the game, but traces of the game continued to follow them, and they disappeared one by one. Parallel Game. Two players competing against each other in a gaming tournament discovered that they began killing each other in a parallel universe. The game created real-life interaction in both worlds. When one of the players killed another in the parallel universe, the same thing happened in the real world. This caused players to fight each other for their lives. The developer of the game admitted that he lost control, and chaos was created in these parallel worlds. But no solution was found to stop the game. Loss of memory. A game developer has added a feature to his game that gives players the ability to tap into their real-life memories. However, this feature caused players to discover dark secrets from their own past. Those who played the game realized that memories from their own lives were reenacted within the game. However, players lost in these memories began to lose their memories in the real world. The game developer tried to fix this situation, but it turned out that the memories of the players lost in the game were completely erased in the real world. Cursed console. A group of friends found an old game console and discovered a game cartridge inside marked with strange symbols. As they started playing the game, strange events began to occur around the console. The characters in the game began to appear in the real world. A player in the game. Virus code. A game developer shared the beta version of a new game on the internet. However, those who downloaded the game soon realized that their computers were attacked by viruses. The virus on their computers began to be effective in the real world as well. While players searched for a solution within the game, the virus continued to create chaos by infecting electronic systems in the real world. The developer disappeared, and the game paralyzed thousands of computers and even some industrial systems under the influence of the virus. Midnight call. When a group of friends opened an old game console, they found a strange phone number. When they called the number, they realized they heard a tense voice recording. From that day on, the same number appeared on the console screens every night. Players who called the number began to witness strange events in the real world. The events described in the telephone voice recording took place in the players' homes. One player claimed that he experienced the same events in the phone calls. The trick seemed to release some kind of curse along with the game console. Scream control. A game developer has created a game where players can control real-life people. The characters in the game could be mutually controlled in the real world. However, some of the players began to claim that the people they took control of had lost control of them. A player saw the person they controlled end their life, and the same tragic event occurred in the real world. The controls within the game got mixed up, and the character controlled by one player killed the person controlled by the other players. Parallel swap. A player who won a game tournament exchanged a virtual item he won as a prize with another player. However, after the exchange, both players started living each other's lives. The victory gained in the virtual world had become someone else's victory in the real world. Players had to compete with each other in the game world to regain their own reality. Silent scream. A game developer added a silent scream into a game. Those who played the game began to scream silently in the real world, under the influence of the scream. However, the scream did not stop, and the voices of the players lost in the game continued to echo in the real world. The developer lost control of the silent scream within the game, and this strange chain of events became unstoppable. Broken link. A game developer created a new multiplayer game and added a connection system where players can influence each other. However, the connections within the game also had an impact in the real world. When players killed each other in-game, they began to affect each other in the real world. The game worked like a kind of dark magic, making the connection between players unbreakable, and the death of one player left the other facing the same fate. Unexpected guest. A game developer has created a game that gives players the ability to log into their real-world homes from their computers. However, this feature was activated due to a bug. and players allowed an unknown entity into their homes. While the character in the game wanders around real-world homes, the players' families and friends begin to exhibit strange behavior under the influence of this unexpected guest. The game developer tried to find the source of the error, but chaos continued in the real world.